Hi, this is Katie with Empowering Astrology, and this is your look at the astrology of March 30th to April 5th, 2020. So it's another week, you all. I know that there's a lot going on in the world, and I think this is a great place for us to check in, see how we're doing. For those who don't know who I am, again, my name is Katie Sweetman. I am a astrologer and psychic medium here in Brooklyn, New York. So every week we kind of come together to look at the astrology, but also paint a bigger picture of what's going on. So if you're joining me on the live call, please say hello. Tell me how you're doing, especially if you are in quarantine like me. I know that this is an international audience, and I know that we are all in different circumstances right now, but also some similar circumstances at the moment. But before I delve into that, let's just sort of recap what's going on with the astrology this week. So as we speak right now, Mars is now in Aquarius. So we have another sort of like time change. This is as if one of the hands on the clock is now changed, and now it's pointing towards Aquarius. And for those who have been paying attention to the astrology, we had another planet change last week, or was it more than a week ago? Saturn. Saturn is now also in Aquarius. Saturn's a little bit more of a slower moving planet, so that's kind of like a little bit more of the bigger story. But we're in this time where, at least for the next 3 months, while Saturn's in Aquarius, kind of giving us a preview of, let's say, 2021, 2022, and part of 2023, where we got to start to pay attention to humanity. Aquarius is about humanity. It's about the collective. It's about how we're all connected, which is highly ironic at the moment because we're all in timeout, we're all separated. But I think the really interesting flip side to all this is that this is the time that's really making us become more aware of how important it is to be connected. So here we are, we're connecting, but we're connecting virtually. I can't imagine what this would be like without the internet, without a Zoom call, without a Facebook Live. But this is how we're connecting. And maybe you're finding that you're reaching out to friends more, or you're reaching out to family members. Certainly you're spending more time in the home, at least that's the idea. But wherever Saturn is in the sky, it talks about what I call big time. Big time, it kind of lasts for about 3 years. There's even bigger time depending on the other planets that we're looking at. And big time says over the next however many years, we are focusing on the traits, both the high traits and the low traits of that sign. Saturn's the planet of lessons. It's the planet of time, growing older, maturity. And these deeper lessons right now have to do with humanity. So what I've been saying the past few weeks, this is a time when we all have to come together. We have to find our humanity. We have to find our connection. We need to work together. Otherwise it's just not gonna work. I see some people have just joined. Hello from Italy. Hi. I see also Anna is here. Home and Awake. I think if I remember correctly, home is Sweden. So yes, international audience here. And I think that Aquarius is a sign that helps us to zoom above, to see things from above, see these kind of greater issues in society, social issues, social causes, puts us into awareness of community. And when I did my Saturn in Aquarius webinar a few weeks ago at this point, I chose this image of a space person above Earth. And little did I know how literal that would be, that to kind of go outside these days, you have to kind of wear a spacesuit, but all right, bad joke. But this idea that we need to be able to zoom up above. And something that I said in one of my updates today, which everybody's just like, huh? I said that this week we are planting the seeds. There's like the beginning of a story that's going to unfold over the next 2 years. And somebody was like, does this mean that the virus is here for 2 years? And that's not what I'm saying. I honestly don't know. I mean, I have some personal concerns that this is going to be a story with us throughout the year. But I'm not what's called a mundane astrologer. So I will defer that. I'm a little bit more of an armchair astrologer when it comes to kind of these greater societal and political themes. But it means, astrology is all about time and looking at cycles of time. And when, right this week, with Mars now in Aquarius with Saturn, Mars and Saturn will come together tomorrow. They'll form what's called a conjunction. And that conjunction only happens every 2 years. And here we are, Saturn has just gone into Aquarius. There's a new story that's opening up in your life that Saturn Aquarius is not about the pandemic. It's not about the virus, but it's the stage that we are living part of the story through. And pay attention to the other stories that are happening. Pay attention to the people that are coming into your life right now, even if it's virtual. Pay attention to the thoughts that you're having. I think that this time, and I really felt this when Saturn was at 29 Aquarius a couple weeks ago, and I felt this when Mars was in Aquarius, the 29 Aquarius the past couple of days, that I don't know, this may be a weird thing to say, but it kind of feels like everything that we're choosing, everything that we're doing, it feels weighted. It feels like, this will go down on your permanent record kind of a feel. Saturn is this, if we kind of make it into a person, almost like this person that's watching all of our deeds and all of our actions. And Saturn talks about karma. It talks about kind of these greater laws. It talks about, Saturn's what's called exalted in Libra. So Saturn wants balance and showing us where things are out of balance, or showing us that we can choose two different sides. And I feel like what I've seen, it's like, okay, what are you doing with this time? Which path are you headed? And this is why I feel that this time, even though we're at home, or a lot of us are at home, it's pregnant with possibility. Another thing that I said in a previous update is that the North Node right now is in Cancer. Our spiritual North Point is literally home. It's family. So we're in this sort of pause, this very, important and almost pregnant-like pause. And so really thinking about, well, what are you doing? What's going on? Apart from having to deal with inconveniences, and maybe you're sharing space with people and it's hard to get work done, or maybe you don't have work. What is some of these other stories that are happening? I wrote about this in my newsletter that went out this morning. I was having a client call this weekend, and something that Spirit said to me when I was working to her, like often when I'm working with somebody, Spirit will say a question for me to say to the client. And they said to me, what is on the other side of this virus, this pandemic, meaning there's life on the other side of this virus and this pandemic, and what does it look like? What changes are we all going to make? And I think some of you, I know certainly that's where my mind is right now, that there are things that we're thinking about. It's like, you know what, like I've had a total shift in how I see things, a total reorientation of priorities, and now I want to change this. So Spirit said to my client, like, what is on the other side of this virus? Meaning to start to dream and to think of the actions that you're going to take when this is over. Because at some point, it's going to be over. And here's the thing, we can't go back to the way things were. We have to take these steps into this new life. And maybe that's a part of what the second half of 2020 is about, when Mars spends 6 months in Aries. What new actions are we taking? So this is why I said this week is very important, because Mars has just gotten into Aquarius and it's meeting up with Saturn. And Saturn is sort of like the structure, the container. And then Mars, inseminates. It brings life to this kind of new time, this new structure. And yes, traditionally in astrology, Saturn and Mars together are not well favored. They are called malefics in astrology, and they're called malefics for a reason, which means they kind of can create more problems than good. But I think that it's a time when we want to really think about the seeds that we want to plant. These seeds that if we go forward into 2023, when Saturn is coming to the end of Aquarius, what do we want these seeds to bear fruit? So I was having another client consultation today, and I've really seen her blossom over the year that we've been working together. And she's now ready to take some next big steps in her life. And, another question that came through from Spirit is like, well, what changed? And a lot of things changed in a personal life and brought into focus what really matters. And all this happened very quickly. There was other things that she was thinking about doing. There was some shifts in her personal life that quickly brought her into what really matters and stepping forward in her purpose. And so this is why I think that there's a lot of not good things happening right now, and people are suffering. And then what's the other side? What are you doing with this time? If you are well, if you do have space, if you do have downtime, how are you using it? How are you planning? How are you planting seeds? Because this is the time, and Spirit said to me, like, this time is so precious. If you have it, how are you using it? Because when it's not here anymore, we're going to miss it in a way. So this is why I think that if you're the type that journals, if you're the type that kind of, jots things down and takes notes, like, what's coming into your life right now? What are the thoughts? Are you, like my client, thinking about taking a next big step in your professional life, really kind of committing to a path or committing to a work, or realizing that all these old stories, all the excuses, all the self-worth, all the woulda, coulda, shoulda, doesn't matter anymore. So maybe this is the time for you this week to think and to plan. Mars in Aquarius also puts our focus towards these kind of greater issues, societal issues, humanitarian issues. Certainly that's where humanity is right now. We've had a lot of planets in the last 4 or 5 months in Capricorn. We had Pluto in Capricorn, Jupiter in Capricorn, and then for a while we also had Mars and Saturn in Capricorn. So at one point we had 4 planets, 5 if you count the nodes, and then 6 and 7 if you count the sun and the moon back in December. It was a lot of Capricorn. It was Capricorn is about the world. It's about structure and governments, and now things are starting to move away from Earth, which is Capricorn's an earth sign, and it's starting to move towards Aquarius, which is an air sign. And air is all about exchange, relationships, interaction. So it's kind of like this element shift for everybody that's happening right now. Aquarius is also science and technology, and these are things that are also going to be front and center over the next 5 weeks, 5-6 weeks. Mars spends about 5 to 6 weeks in a sign, except for later this year, it's going to spend 6 months in Aries, which is very unusual. But we're going to have a Mars retrograde from September to November. That's another story for another time. Also, this week, speaking of Capricorn, I said that Jupiter and Pluto are still in Capricorn. Jupiter is going to be in Capricorn all year long. Pluto is going to be in Capricorn until 2023, 2024. But Jupiter and Pluto meet up together on April 4th. So this is, I believe it's one of 3 connections. I have to kind of go and double check that, but this is a major alignment of 2 planets. Jupiter and Pluto together, they sometimes come up, evoke themes about wealth and power and riches, but also it might bring an existing issue. It might make it bigger, because Jupiter can make things bigger. But this is also a very transformational energy, and certainly if you are a Sagittarius or a Pisces, you might be feeling this really strong, potent energy to transform something about yourself because you are what's called Jupiter ruled. So we'll see kind of what the narrative is this week, certainly on a collective humanitarian or even political level, because these are just two big planets that are sort of coming together at the end of this week on Saturday, Saturday. Something else to keep in mind this week is that Venus will go into Gemini on April 3rd. That's another, normally Venus spends about 4 weeks in a sign, 3-4 weeks, depending on how fast it's moving, but it's going to spend the next 4 months in Gemini because we're going to have a retrograde from May until June. So Venus in Gemini, it's very flirtatious, it's very chatty, it's very social. It's funny, we're having all of the sort of like this movement happening in what are called the air signs, air, connection, socialization, friends, relationships. These are things that right now we can't readily do. We have to do through the medium of the internet. If you're just joining me on the live call, let me know how you're doing. Like, this is, kind of all in this together. Like I said, it's an international audience. How are you dealing with the changes in the world, but also how are you feeling the changes in the air? Have you felt the change from Saturn going from Capricorn to Aquarius? I think I feel it. It's one of those things where it's like the world is so topsy-turvy at the moment that you're like, is this what Saturn and Aquarius feels like? Just by the way, and I included these links in the show notes. I have a couple of articles on Saturn and Aquarius, both like an overview, but also a sign-by-sign look at what Saturn and Aquarius means for you. Let me know how you're doing. If you're watching the replay on YouTube or IGTV, also let me know how you're doing. But as I was saying, Venus is going to be in this air sign, so we're going to have to do air in a much different way. But maybe there's going to be some point, hopefully in the not so distant future, when we get to get out and to socialize and to connect. I'm just hoping that that's not, we don't have to wait till Mars goes into Aries at the end of June, because that would just be unbelievable. So I will say that wherever your Gemini house is, you will get the Venus retrograde. So there might be some story that's starting to come into focus in the next couple of weeks and maybe the next month or so that you're going to have to go back and revisit in May when Venus goes retrograde. Those are the bigger points this week. I know that we are sort of in a unprecedented time. I think it's important that we all stay safe, we stay grounded. I've been doing daily, speaking of air, I've been doing daily meditations at 5:30 Eastern for people. Funny enough, the one that was supposed to happen at 5:30 today got trolled because the link was it wasn't completely public, but you had to go through a couple of links to get it. But we'll have to, if you did try to join today's meditation, I'm so sorry about that. I did password protect the room. So we can still keep doing the daily meditations at 5:30, but you have to reach out to me to get the password for the Zoom room. I guess this is the thing. Like, we live in the time where, what path are you choosing? Are you using this time to create chaos and to disrupt things, or are you using this time to get grounded and centered? And I think that it's so important that we are looking at our choices right now, but also taking care of ourselves and really taking care of our emotional and spiritual health. So this is why I was offering this daily meditation at 5:30. We'll continue to do it. We just kind of have to organize ourselves a little differently, because other people out there don't want us to meditate, don't want us to be grounded and centered. Just checking in on the comments. Somebody's coming from Glastonbury in the UK. Yes, nice to hear you or see you. Some people are so Aquarius. Jennifer asks, how do you determine house is a sign in 2? If I'm understanding the question correctly, Jennifer, when I try to talk about astrology, I try to make it as simple as possible, just for people, kind of for lay people, and I use whole sign. But in my work, I use both what's called whole sign and Placidus. But in whole sign, it just says, like, if you're an Aries, then Gemini, for instance, is Aries' 3rd house because it's its 3rd sign. And then whenever a planet is going through Gemini, it has the qualities of what, like, a 3rd house transit, which means communication, voice, learning. And then that's, of course, tempered by the type of planet in there. So that's how I, sometimes you'll see 2 different houses, if you, it might be a different house if it's a Placidus chart. I use both, sometimes 3 bits of information, because I sort of see things in a multi-dimensional way. So even though it's 2 different house systems, I think they both work. Anna says she's not scared about the virus. I don't think we should panic and worry. Just my personal opinion is, but I think we should also take whatever safe measures there are, because I know that there's people that are immunocompromised. My mother is one of them. She's on this call. And so she's somebody, for instance, that cannot be around this virus. I've known some people indirectly that have gotten sick. So it's pretty serious. Also see some people who are from Australia, and also somebody's an early Scorpio. I'm a late Scorpio. So, for some of you, I can quickly go around the chart, so you can kind of understand where kind of Saturn and Mars are bringing their energy this week. If you're an Aries, Saturn and Mars are bringing their energy to friendships, community, also getting you to think about what's the bigger picture, what's the future, where are you headed, where are you going? So pay attention to how you're connecting with people, sort of your group involvements. Maybe you're finding that this time is making you look at your friendships differently and the type of friendships that you want, and maybe the people that aren't in alignment with you anymore. If you're a Taurus, this is a time that's about career. Saturn and Mars are at what's called the top of your chart, which is about your place in the world, your status, your reputation, but also what are your ambitions. So this story this week that might be kind of playing out over the next couple of years is about your direction in the world and your career. So you might be seeing some career shifts. And then that word might make you a little nervous, career shifts. I mean, that's 2 words. But this is a time for you to answer a very simple question. Saturn is asking Taurus, what do you want to be when you grow up? And maybe you don't have the answer right now, but the idea is that over the next couple of years, you do have the answer. And if you like what you do and if it fulfills you, then great, you have to commit to it. You have to take it to the next level, and you now have to be the authority. If you don't like it, Saturn, again, wants balance, wants harmony. So what is going to create the harmony and balance in your professional life? What's after? Gemini. So Gemini, this part of your chart is about your faith, your education, travel. It's kind of a funny time to talk about travel. Nevertheless, that's sort of where one of the hands on the clock is pointing for you right now, Gemini. And you are a travel sign. You're a sign that needs to move and be on the go. Of course, what does that look like during a time when travel is limited? Nevertheless, also, you're maybe doing that searching and exploring through different means. Maybe you're reading a book, maybe you're watching a documentary. This is a time when you need to kind of answer big questions and look towards different philosophies, different ideologies, and different systems to help you answer those questions. This is a time when the answers are on the outside as opposed to other times when you need to find the answers within. If you are a Cancer, this is a time when you're having to start to go into the deep self. So this is a time, and we all go through it. We might do it once a month when the moon is going through this part of our chart. We might do it once every 29 years when Saturn is going through it. But it's a time when we have to face ourselves. And facing ourselves means really looking at the part of ourself that's actively working against us. And this could be facing fears, facing traumas, facing the past, facing self-sabotage. And that the more that you free yourself from the part of you that's working against you, the more that you have sort of deepened and mastered yourself. And when Saturn is in a house, or Saturn's in a sign, it's all about some level of personal mastery. So it's a little bit of a heavier emotional time for Cancer, but your mandate, especially with Mars now in Aquarius, is to really work on your emotional health. This also might be a time that has to do with money and money, like debts and wealth and estates, and sort of this idea of like kind of bigger resources. If you're a Leo, this is a time that's about relationship, and the next few years are about you building relationship, and this may include a serious relationship coming in. This may include needing to have more connection. Yes, this may be virtual. And also, if you're in an existing relationship and if it's not working, how do you put the work in to make it work? Because Saturn, again, wants balance, it wants harmony. If connection in general has been hard for you, Leo, what does it mean to bring new people into your life? Like, how will that change how you interact? Mars now just makes it, kind of heats that story up. So pay attention to who you're connecting to this week, who's coming in, and those relationship stories that are sort of planting these nascent seeds that are going to sort of thread their way through the next couple of years. If you are a Virgo, this is about health. This is about wellness. This is about how you take care of your body. Now, Virgo, this is an area that's technically should be your jam, so to speak. It's something that I'm writing about in my April horoscope for Virgo, is that you can't just focus on the physical health. You have to focus on the emotional and spiritual health, that you have to really look at how everything is linked. So this is a time when you're having to really focus on your physical health and tend to your physical health. And this might mean needing to make changes in diet, having to start and initiate new workout, or certainly these are things you can do remotely at the moment, but how does that all link to emotional health? So that's kind of one of the stories that's coming into focus right now. If you are a Libra, this is a time that's about you taking yourself seriously. Everybody has talents, even if they are, very particular or very small, but everybody has a talent. Everybody is unique, even if that sounds cheesy. And so this is a time when you're needing to really cultivate your talent, cultivate a deeper sense of self, and how you express who you are and how you share who you are. Side note, in case this is relevant, this is the time when maybe children are very highlighted, and sometimes Mars, insemination. This might be a time of pregnancy. If you are a Scorpio, this is about home and family and roots and foundation. And, the Aquarius is what's called the bottom of your chart. It's your foundation. So it's a deeper look over the next few years about what is at your root and your foundation. For Scorpios, this is a time to settle down. And of course, that statement means different things to different people. But just really making sure that base of yours is strong. And if you need to replant yourself, where will that be? Like, what's going to really nourish you, especially in a time in the world where, you know, we're having a value shift. It's like, what really, after all of this, what really matters? Sagittarius, this is the time in your chart where it's about communication, information, ideas, learning. Maybe you're doing a lot of distance learning right now. Maybe you're traveling, but you're having to do it in a way that's a little bit more confined at the moment. But nevertheless, and this is a time when you're having to really work on your voice. People need to hear you, and you need to learn to be an authority of what you know. And Sagittarius, you're already a sign that's known for its wisdom, but now you have to kind of bring it into something cohesive. You know, you just can't say anything. You have to like say things that have weight and meaning now. Moving on to Capricorn, this is the time in your chart when it has to do with money, income, how you earn a living, value, and worth. And even if that value and worth has to do with yourself. So really pay attention to the stories that are happening this week around spending, earning, what you need. Do you need a stockpile of toilet paper? Do you need a stockpile of supplies? There's kind of this need of kind of focusing on basics right now, and really looking at everything in your life and saying, does this have value? Do I need this? And that's like a deeper thread that's going to be running through the next couple of years. Aquarius, so you're in a time of personal new beginnings. You sort of ended a 29-year story. Now you're beginning a new one, and here comes Mars, and it's sort of kind of sending you off into this new time. So really pay attention to how you are being pushed forward, or how you are feeling the cause or the push within to move forward. Mars in Aquarius might make you a little frustrated. Mars can be a little run hot and hot-tempered. So if that's something that, if that comes up, don't be surprised. But it just means that you have a lot of fuel. Like Mars is gas. It's like the go in the chart. So how are you using this gas right now? And if you're stuck at home, you might have to use this fuel, this energy in creative ways to give it an outlet. Normally, I would say this is a very physical time for you. You need to kind of go for walks. You need to move. You might not be able to do that right now. So you're going to have to use that Aquarian ingenuity to think of a new solution. Last but not least, Pisces. This is a time where you're going deep within yourself. And if you remember a few signs ago, I said that you can find the answers outside. So through books, through philosophy, religion, ideology. Well, this is a time, Pisces, where you have to go deep within. You now have to find the answers within. And this is supposed to be a very spiritual time. It's supposed to be a time of retreat, reflection, and for you to sort of work on your connection with something beyond. It's also a time to let go of baggage. With Mars in what's called your 12th house, you might be feeling a little bit lower on energy. It is meant to be a time for rest. So if you are in quarantine, this is certainly in alignment with kind of like the greater energies of what you need right now. So don't rush, don't push, just rest. So that is sort of where Mars is activating around the charts. Aquarius is going to be a big focus over the next few years. And some people have been calling it the birth of the age of Aquarius. I don't know how I feel about that. There is some discussion about when the age of Aquarius actually began. But that's another story for another time. But nevertheless, we have to really focus on humanity. And since we're all connected, we also have to focus on ourselves to make sure that we, as individual pieces of humanity, as individuals of humanity, that we're all kind of working together in sync. And so maybe this is why, doing a daily meditation at 5:30 Eastern as a way of kind of getting grounded and centered ourselves is something that we can do that we then kind of ripples outward into the collective. So that said, that's your week. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know what your feedback is. You can, of course, keep following me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. And yes, I'm still doing consultations. A couple people asked me that. Yeah, I'm doing my consultations. I'm in confinement. Come keep me entertained. That said, thank you for joining me today. This has been your look at the astrology of March 30th through April 5th, 2020. Until next week, take care. Bye.